Injury reports are new to the Big 12, and Utah is already messing it up. Luckily, Iowa State doesn't have to play them, but I do worry this spreads to the rest of the conference. We're breaking down what happened today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day and making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform. Be sure to hit subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. Today, we're talking about the issues in Utah, not necessarily the ones on the field, although it does appear as though there are quite a few of those. No, we're talking about the injury report. Kyle Whittingham, Devon Dampier, what's going on over in Utah, because it could spread to the rest of the Big 12. We'll talk about that first. Then we're going to talk about Kelly Ford on Twitter hating on Iowa State. I think that they are just flat out wrong, and I really want to talk about it, so I'm going to. Then last but not least, today to wrap up the show, we're going to talk about could Iowa State compete outside the Big 12? Because obviously if Iowa State makes the college football playoff at the end of the season, they're going to have to, more than likely, right? So I do think there's a chance that more than one Big 12 team gets in. I think Iowa State could be one of those teams. Right now, there's a lot of conversation of inter-division or inter-conference matchups. Where does Iowa State square up? We'll have to break it down in that final segment. I can't wait to get to that and more, of course, in the middle. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, let's talk about the issue going down in Utah, because this is potentially a problem. I think this is what a lot of people thought Matt Campbell was going to do with injury reports. And this is an interesting situation because it seems like, based on my interpretation, I don't know if any rules were necessarily broken, but I don't think the game was played with integrity. Let's put it that way. So essentially, after the game, Kyle Whittingham had this quote about Devon Dampier and how he handled the week leading up to the Texas Tech game. This is from @BartleKSL Sports on X or Twitter. He said, quote, "He was doing the best he could. He couldn't practice much Tuesday or Wednesday. He was never a doubt to play, but it certainly impacted him." And then Kyle Whittingham on Devon Dampier, who was injured late against Wyoming. So why does that matter? Well, these new injury reports in the Big 12 are something that a lot of people I think are excited for. I think I'm one of those people. I think this gives a good insight into where the team is at, especially with Matt Campbell too. You know, I heard you guys. Okay, I heard what we talked about yesterday. Like, I want to know. Okay, I'm kind of going off of a Twitter post, and I decided to talk about what could happen if we don't have Kyle Conradi. But I suppose I don't have it on any reports here to know exactly what's exactly going down, and that's just for one game, let alone obviously a timeline or anything like that. But game by game, Utah. This is the Saturday report for the Texas Tech game that I have in front of me here. Utah had Rabbit Evans, safety, listed as out. Dadron Zipperer, wide receiver, listed as out. Josh Sovereign, listed as out, safety. And Isaiah Garcia, offensive lineman, listed as out. And that is the entirety of their injury report. Okay, you got Texas Tech, who has 3 guys in the out category, 3 guys who are doubtful, excuse me, 3 guys who are questionable, and then 5 guys who are probable. So they're really going through the exercise here. They're exhausting all of their options. Who is going to play? Essentially, the guy's not on the list. And then all the way down through the entire gradiency, right? Through the whole Roy G. Biv rainbow down to who is definitely not playing in this game. The issue arises when you're talking about a guy who struggled throughout the week and then that impacted his game. Should he have been on that injury report earlier on in the week? Well, this here is a statement by Utah explaining why Devon Dampier was left off the injury report. Quote, "Quarterback Devon Dampier did not appear on last week's player ability report because while he was limited in practice early in the week, his status of playing in last Saturday's game versus Texas Tech was never in question. We have spoken to the conference and have clarified the guidelines moving forward." End quote. Kyle Whittingham. I'm not actually, he doesn't really say here what exactly the guidelines are, but it seems to me that if that's the case, I can see actually what happened here. And so I was doing some digging on Twitter at Nick_Marv. If you're interested in tagging along with me, tagging me and stuff, conversing about Iowa State happenings. And I came across this from Jake Hatch, host of Locked On Cougars, the BYU Cougars. Obviously talking about this, like what's the deal here. And he tweeted out this in a reply to one of his quote tweets saying that, quote, reading more on this, I've been expecting an NFL style injury report, but Big 12 rules are about availability on game day and not a practice availability. That's the key wrinkle here, because if Kyle Whittingham goes and says that Devon Dampier was never a doubt to play in this game, whether or not he practiced, whether or not he was a partial participant, whether or not was even sure if he was going to practice, if there was a question mark, it doesn't matter because he was going to play no matter what. Well, then they technically abided by the rules. That is technically, from my understanding, he does not need to be on the injury report or the availability report because he was not ever in question of playing the game or not. Now, that is a whole different situation, right? Is it just because it worked out this way? Were they actually slow playing it? And then they maybe would have added him to the report on Saturday and we would have said that it was a Friday practice injury. Look, there's a lot of wrinkles that go into this, but technically, based on the information that I have here, it seems like the game was played within the rules. Now, whether or not you like those rules, that's a whole different story. And that's where I go next is I don't love this. If this is how this is going to go, all of a sudden it's just who's in and who's out essentially at game day, right? And that's basically what Utah did because they can say every single one of our guys has no question he is going to play, right? Like you can just say that and then change your mind essentially. If he goes in even just for one play, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, he played. He did. He fulfilled his availability report. He did play, but kind of got this lingering thing. He's not going to play the rest of the game. This is a weird angle. I don't like this at all. I much prefer the concept of probable, doubtful, questionable, giving us this gradiency. The problem with that is it obviously tips off the opposing teams, right? And so you can game plan around that. You can start to kind of build a counterattack of where is Texas Tech weak. All right, well, if Texas Tech is missing these two offensive linemen, 52 and 53, well, maybe we can go at it with these players here in this way, run these stunts, install these on Wednesday, try to get these ready to roll Thursday, Friday, and Saturday comes around and we're ready to attack that hole, right? If you've got I'm trying to see any specific holes. Two probable safeties here. Maybe we try to install something that's going to specifically target over the top safety, right? Let's just try to go that route. And if they play, they play. If they don't, then maybe we try that play. You see what I'm saying here? It can open up that avenue. And I see why, especially a coach like Kyle Whittingham is totally playing these cards, especially with it being early on in the Big 12. You can kind of do this and get away with it a little bit and find out what happens. I'll be very interested to see if this leaks across the rest of the league, because from what I've seen, I personally have not seen anything come out about this other than the statement from Utah talking about why they made the decisions they did. And so it seems like they kind of got away with it. Now, what's going to happen with Iowa State? Is it only going to be guys that we know are not going to play against Arizona? They'll be on the injury report. Is that an advantage? I think that's an advantage, but I think that kind of defeats the purpose of this. It's just like, a little bit earlier who's not in and who's, I'm not a huge fan of that. So I'm sure there are going to be Utah fans here because I'm sure of what the title and thumbnail are going to be. What's going on in Utah? Is this fair? Iowa State fans. What are we doing? I don't know if I love this. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Texas Tech, I think, it was a better team, and it didn't really end up mattering. But that feels like a little bit like, okay, it's technically in the rules, but maybe we should adjust the rules type situation because it doesn't feel like that's necessarily in the spirit of the game. But I guess technically, if they didn't break any rules, kudos. to Utah for figuring that out. All right, let's talk about Iowa State specifically a little bit more here, because I do think this impacts Iowa State. But Iowa State is being just straight up disrespected all across Twitter, and it's getting out of hand. We have to talk about it here in just 1 second. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. I know every single one of you guys knows Cafe DM on Main Street in Ames. Shout out, one of the greatest spots. I know a lot of people know about it. It's not really that slept on, but it really does move the needle for me as far as one of these businesses in Ames that really boosts the morale of the neighborhood, if you will. It's the kind of place where you walk in, everybody knows your name. You're free to just sit down, study whatever the case is. I did that many a time in my days in Ames. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I'm a personally huge fan of the zone deals. Pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. It's faster, it's cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I've bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets, college football tickets specifically, with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. So we got to talk about, there's a lot going on Twitter, just in general, around Iowa State, and I don't love it, okay? But one thing in particular we're going to talk about today on Locked On Cyclones by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, is Kelly Ford at K Ford Ratings on X. Because, you know, I've seen some posts that are in favor of Iowa State, and I've seen a few that aren't necessarily giving Iowa State all the credit they deserve. But I've chosen to let those kind of go. Okay, I've kind of let those slip off the back, as they say, just fly over my head. Not going to let it bother me. Iowa State's 4-0. I'm dancing my way through the season. Okay, feeling good about where we're at. However, this graphic got my attention, and I just absolutely had to speak on this because I think this is ridiculous. And I genuinely think that a lot of people feel like relatively like this about Iowa State football right now. And it's shocking to me because I know this, and I think you know this as well. Iowa State is very good at football. In my opinion, and I think a lot of your opinions as well, is that Iowa State is an absolute contender for the Big 12. Well, this graphic would, it thinks otherwise. Let's put it that way. What I've got here is projected Big 12 standings, percent chance to win at least blank conference games based on current K Ford ratings. And I know I'm not going to put too much into just like one writer who says one thing about one team. Like, I get it. All right. There are hundreds of writers, hundreds of media personalities around the nation and probably around the globe, honestly, writing on this. And it would literally every segment would be about Iowa State being disrespected if I were to pick out every single one. But I am using this as a platform to talk about the general kind of conversation around Iowa State at this moment in time. Because I don't know if it's because we had a bye or what, but everyone just seems to think that Iowa State is completely terrible right now, which is crazy, genuinely crazy. And that we haven't even gotten to the Iowa State curse yet, but let's talk about it. The way that this is laid out is very interesting. It's very difficult for me to describe, but I'm not going to throw it up on the screen. Basically, what this K4 ratings is guessing is that Iowa State is going to finish about 6th in the Big 12 as far as win totals. So obviously Iowa State 1-0 in the conference right now with their win over Kansas State to start the season. That was a conference game. For those of you who maybe are new or weren't aware, whatever the case is, that was a conference game. So Iowa State currently 1-0 in the Big 12. Not the only team that has a conference win. Texas Tech, Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston also have wins in the Big 12 at this moment in time. The teams ahead of Iowa State, as I said, predicted to finish in sixth-ish as far as number of wins. The teams ahead of Iowa State, I'm going to go actually top to bottom. Texas Tech at 1. I don't think that's maybe the craziest thing I've ever heard. BYU at 2. Kansas at 3. TCU at 4. Arizona State sneaks in at 5. And then Iowa State at 6. Now, granted, Iowa State technically has the exact same average predicted number of conference wins as Arizona State. So it really comes down to like nuances in the percentages, which it's literally 1%. But you know what? I'm going to use it as fuel because I think it's ridiculous. So the current projection has Iowa State at 5.3 wins in the conference. You've already got 1. That means you only need 4 more. And you've basically hit the nail on the head as far as the predictions here. Texas Tech is predicted to have 7.4, BYU 6, Kansas just below 6, TCU just below 6, and then Arizona State that 5.3, like I mentioned. I'm not here to break down this entire graph. Like I said, it's not really about this one in particular, but the concept that Iowa State has a 74% chance on here to get a 5-win conference season. 45% to get to 6 wins. That's only 5 more wins. I mean, let's take a look at the schedule. I have it pulled up for this exact reason. And we've done this. We've done ceiling and floor. I think it was earlier this week, if not last week. I think it was last week. What are we doing? What are we even talking about? You think 6 wins in conference, so 5 more. Iowa State plays Arizona at home, goes on the road to Cincinnati and Colorado, then plays BYU, Arizona State at home, TCU on the road. Kansas at home, Oklahoma State on the road. So they have 1 already, and you have less than a 50% chance to get to 6 wins. That's 5 more that they need. 5 out of 8 remaining. So they basically need to go 500 on the year, and you're saying they have less than a 50% chance of doing that. Look, this, like I say, I'm repeating myself over and over. This is not a shot at this one particular set of rankings. But the discourse around Iowa State right now is just that of utter disrespect. And I get it. Kansas State looks terrible. Iowa, okay, you got the win over Rutgers. All right, awesome. Caden Weejan is literally lighting it up, having track meets out there. And I think that's probably the only reason. So maybe that's not helping either. Arkansas State didn't look very good against Kennesaw State. All right. So there is that going. But Iowa State is taking care of the business that's laid in front of them and has absolutely handled the first 4 weeks. As Matt Campbell has said, maybe the best that any team coming off of Ireland has, and probably the best that they possibly could have. You're talking about a supercharged rivalry in the Cyhawk. At the first win at home in 14 years? 2011, I believe, was the last time. So yeah, it's a Cyhawk game. I have no problem with a 3-point win in that one. And we'll talk about that here in the last segment. You've got an Arkansas State game where it's 1,000 degrees and you were traveling all over and you just played those 4 straight games. Like, look, Iowa State got it done. So basically what they're saying here is that Iowa State is a below average Big 12 team the rest of this way. They're barely going to get 5 out of their 8 wins. More than likely only going to get 4 more wins. You think they're going to go 500 the rest of the season. That is the general idea of Iowa State. And I think it's because Texas Tech looked so good. Texas Tech is this team from outer space. Oh my goodness, they paid all this money and they're going to dominate the Big 12 the rest of this season. Let's not forget that Iowa State's in this conference. Let's not forget the TCU's in this conference. Let's not forget that Kansas is in this conference. BYU. There's plenty of other teams that are going to compete every single, well, I would say Saturday, but sometimes we're playing on other days now. I don't understand where this narrative came from. We saw one big noon kickoff game, which Iowa State was also a big noon kickoff game, But we see one Texas Tech Utah game, and all of a sudden, well, if you're not from Lubbock, you are literally cooked. Sorry about it. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, Iowa State. Weren't you just absolutely killing it earlier this season? Oh, you were? Well, now you're probably going to more than likely go 500 through conference play. What? What are we talking about? No. And I'm not going to go game by game. We've done this. I don't see it. I don't see it. I really don't see it. To get to 7 wins, they have a 19% chance, and I think that's much too low. I think they have you could bump all these numbers up one. I think they have a 19% chance to get to 8 wins in conference. 7 more. 7 of their 8. That's where I think they're at, but apparently I'm one of one. Where are you at? Let me know in the comments or at Nick_Marf on Twitter. I love interacting with you guys about this stuff because apparently I am the only one that believes in Iowa State right now. We had this conversation about the beginning of the season. Who had Iowa State going 4-0? Like, I know I definitely have my conversations with myself back and forth. Are they going to beat Kansas State or not? It's a bit of a coin flip. Obviously, Iowa's a tough game, but I tell you what, I was much more in the camp that they were going to go 4-0 than they were going to go 1-3, which is where a lot of people had them. 2-2. Definitely did not think they were going 2-2. I thought at minimum 3-1. And now the rest of the way, everyone's jump ship, which is maybe good for this team. Maybe we need a little bit of underdog mentality because it's not going to be handed to them. They need to earn it. They absolutely need to earn it. And if they earn their way into the college football playoff, could Iowa State compete? A question we'll answer here in just 1 second. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same attention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Yeah, all 4 of them here in Iowa. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. So Iowa State is probably going to make the college football playoff. Let's not get too crazy here, but I think there's a very real world where Iowa State makes the college football playoff with flying colors. Okay. And I do think there is a world where 2 teams from the Big 12 make the college football playoff. And who knows? Maybe Iowa State has to be on the tail end of that. Maybe it's not as a conference champion, but I do think they're a good enough team. And I think they honestly have a favorable schedule in a lot of ways as well to make that happen. Now, I am saying that here at Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. But let's break it down. Is Iowa State good enough to compete outside the Big 12? Well, the initial answer is yes, because we've already defeated Iowa, a Big 10 team. But there was a lot of graphics going around about out-of-conference play, non-conference Power 4 opponents, and one in particular that was awesome was the Big 12 versus the ACC. By my count here, the Big 12 only lost 1 game to the ACC, and that was Georgia Tech defeating Colorado. Otherwise, you got TCU blowing the doors off of UNC, double overtime thriller, I believe it was, Baylor SMU. BYU stuns Stanford 27-3. West Virginia in the backyard brawl takes down Pitt 31-24. TCU got SMU in that rivalry, which may not exist anymore, 35-24. UCF takes down UNC as well, 34-9. Maybe it's SMU and UNC. Nonetheless, the Big 12 looks good against the ACC. Against the Big 10, the Big 12 is currently, well, I guess it's kind of just is 2-2. Obviously, a loss to Nebraska by Cincinnati and a loss, wasn't really, it was more of a beatdown, more of an absolute just abysmal showing of Oklahoma State against Oregon. And I don't even mean that in a bad, like you can't even make fun of that because it was just so ugly. So if you're watching this, Cody, I apologize. I mean, every Oklahoma State fan that's seeing this, I feel for you. All right. 69-30 is brutal. That is brutal. A lot of questions going on down there. Nonetheless, Iowa State evens it out with a win over Iowa 16-13, and Utah gets UCLA. Everyone thought Utah was this just unbeatable team. I think it just more so turns out that UCLA isn't very good. Those are the two kind of big head turners, if you will. Against the SEC, the Big 12 didn't fare so well. Baylor lost to Jackson Arnold and Auburn 38-24. Kansas lost 31-42 to Missouri. And we all remember Arizona State falling to Mississippi State 24-20. Okay. Those are not as positive of results, but nonetheless, we're wrapping this up, but the Big 12 goes 8-6 in non-conference Power 4 matchups. Only second to the SEC, who was 9-3. So hypothetically, even if the Big 12 had won 2 of those matchups over the SEC, be a much different story. You're 10-4, and then the SEC then is what? 7-5. It's a totally different narrative. But I know that's not what happened. Let's talk about Iowa State specifically. Could Iowa State hang with the rest of these other conferences? I think if Iowa State were to get an ACC team in the college football playoff at this moment in time, I have no problem saying that they would blow their doors off of them. I don't think the ACC is very good. I think there are a lot of good teams in the ACC, and there's maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 possibly very good teams, but for the most part it's like mediocre, and then there's the bottom of which every conference has the bottom of the conference, and I'm not really picking on any one conference. I think every conference kind of has that, but I think if Iowa State matched up with even the top end of the ACC, it's not going to be a problem. I mean, remember what happened last year against Miami? I know Miami fans are going to be happy about that. What happened with Cam Ward? Whoa. Well, he played the first half, and I don't think Iowa State was losing by 40 at halftime. So just something to think about there. I think Iowa State can hang with the ACC. When it comes to the Big Ten, there are certainly teams in the Big Ten that I think are on another caliber. Oregon, hate to come back to it, OSU fans. Oregon destroying Oklahoma State in the way that they did does make me a little bit frightened. Now, that doesn't mean that Oklahoma State is this good team and that Oregon is just significantly better than anyone else. It's not what I'm saying. But they're obviously pretty good at football, so they could be a concern. Obviously, Ohio State, the defending champion, the win over Texas. I want to see a little bit more, honestly, from Ohio State, looking at just this big picture. Like Miami, I do think is one of the best teams in the country, and I think Iowa State could hang with them. Like I just said about the ACC, I'm not taking that back. It's just that I think Miami honestly has a better shot at that number 1 right now. It deserves it more in that AP poll. So we're kind of getting off track here, but there are teams in the Big Ten that I think are very good that Iowa State would probably struggle with. I'm not sitting here and telling you that Iowa State is the best team by far in the entire country. That would be wrong. I think there are teams in the Big Ten that could probably defeat Iowa State. Now, that's why we play the games, but just upon initial inspection, I think there are a few. Even Michigan, right? Even Michigan would probably give Iowa State a run for their money. Looking at the SEC, though, boy, the SEC is still kind of the SEC, right? I think Oklahoma is a very good team this season. Very good. Just to name one. Now, I will say, I don't think LSU is very good. I think Vanderbilt is actually better than a lot of people give them credit for. Don't sleep on Alabama, right? I think if Alabama faced Iowa State, there would certainly be, it'd be a tough game. Honestly, I think Iowa State could beat LSU. I'm not even going to lie. Like, is that too crazy? Am I getting too far out of pocket here? Because I don't know. Just me. I know. It's the Locked On Cyclones guy, but I don't have a ton of faith in LSU. Just as a college football fan, I think Iowa State is probably a little bit better than LSU. So could Iowa State compete outside the Big 12? Absolutely. Will they get to? Well, they have to get it done in conference first. And apparently, some think that Iowa State's going to go 500 in conference. Look, I don't think that's going to be the case. If they do, I'll eat it. I will completely own it. I have said all offseason how good this team's going to be. And you know what? I am willing to accept that. But at this moment in time, Iowa State's 4-0. And Iowa State looks like one of the best teams in the Big 12. There is no reason for me to believe that Iowa State is going to go 4-4 in the rest of the conference games. I just don't think that that's the case. I don't see that. I think Iowa State is a very good team and doesn't have that tough of a schedule, honestly. They're going to have a few teams for sure. TCU is one. BYU another. Arizona State, I'd like to see them turn it around a little bit more. Kansas, I think, is going to be very good too. I'm not sleeping on the rest of the teams. It's still the Big 12. Anybody can beat anybody any given week. I feel like Eminem after saying that line. But I think if Iowa State is able to make their way to the postseason, I like their chances. I do. Call me crazy, but I think Iowa State could win if they were to get there and to get a relatively kind-ish draw. You could see Iowa State advancing. And it'd be pretty cool if they played in Ames. If they play in Ames, I will 1,085% be there. It's not a doubt. It's actually non-negotiable. If they have a home playoff game, I will go because that's how confident I am that they're going to win. I wouldn't go to a game that I think they're going to lose. Come on. What are we talking about here? That being said, it's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for making it to this point. You're the best. Hit subscribe down below. It's completely free. We're proving it's a Cyclone State. Every single one of you guys knows what's up at this point. Honestly, you guys are the goats. That being said, until next time, Cyclone fans, sayonara.